Hello and welcome back to art. Let me move myself in the middle so you can see me. Hi! So great to see you today. Happy Art Day. We're going to make some beautiful still life paintings today, and I cannot wait. So, what you're going to need from your kit, your beautiful art kit, is your paints. Ooh, paints. Ooh, mine are still wet. You're going to need your crayons, yes. You're going to need a nice white piece of paper, full size or half size if that's all you have. And you'll need a cup of water. Don't spill it on your iPad, you guys. Make sure it is far away from the iPad. So that's what we're going to use for our art today. Now let's talk about what we're going to make, because I'm sure you're like, Miss Hans, get to the fun part. All right, so we are making still life paintings today. A still life painting is just a painting of some objects on a table, usually a bowl of fruit, a bouquet of flowers, just something beautiful to look at that the artist finds beautiful and arranged themselves. The artist has decided where to put the flowers, where to put the bowl of fruit, all that fun stuff. Now, lots of artists have made still lifes. It started kind of in like the 1500s, 1600s in the Netherlands when artists were really trying to draw things realistically. They were trying to trick people's eyes into thinking that their painting was an actual real object, kind of like an optical illusion. So here's some beautiful examples of those, some of those very first still lifes that painters were making. Now, the style changed over years. This Japanese artist, Hiroshige, decided to make, instead of a painting, made a print. That means he carved a stamp out of wood, rolled ink on it, and stamped it down to make this beautiful flower, this hyacinth. Other artists, like this Impressionist artist, Manet, did it a little less realistic, did it a little bit blurry. He really just cared about the beautiful colors and the way the light was hitting the flowers. I'm going to hide this here so we can see the names of these people. This is by Renoir. Beautiful rose bouquet. Looks a little romantic. We know people like to give each other roses on Valentine's Day. This is by Vincent van Gogh. He loved bright, bold colors, and this is his version of a still life with irises. This is by Gustav Klimt, and now instead of having flower vases on a table, he just went right out to the garden and painted the whole flower garden. I love this picture. Piet Mondrian loved color as well, but he was very simplistic. His pictures had very few things in them, kind of minimalistic, so that you would focus just on the main subject, like these amaryllis flowers. Odilon Redon made this beautiful flower vase. I love all the colors in this, and the background is like sunset colors too. And now we're going to make our own. We're going to do a vase of tulips, and I want to show you what it's going to look like. So let's switch over to this camera here. So we are going to make tulips. Are you ready for this? Give me a drum roll. Gorgeous, right? Oh my gosh. We're going to make some flowers on a table in a vase. We'll add some fruit down here, some tasty snacks, and that's what our artwork is going to look like. So let's get started. First thing you are gonna need, let me adjust all my cameras here. First thing you're gonna need is your black crayon. We're gonna start with the vase. The vase shouldn't be too tall because then we won't have room for the flowers. We also don't want the vase to be too short because then the flowers will probably only fill up about half the space. So your vase should come up not about halfway up the paper, but a little lower. So let's start with a straight line right there. Now, for your vase, you can do any shape you want. I'll practice a few on the back, and you can do that with me if you want to practice. You could do a straight vase, just a simple rectangle. You could do a vase that is a little rounder, like a big U shape, sort of like a fishbowl. You could make a vase that curves in on each side. So I'm going to do a curve in and curve in, kind of like the letter C, but then I'll do a nice big round bottom. You could make it just kind of a tall, skinny vase like this. It's up to you. Maybe you have your own idea. Go for it if you do. So now let's make the rest of this vase. It won't come all the way down to the very bottom, but it'll get close. Now, if it's a little lopsided or not perfectly symmetrical, don't even worry about it. What we're really going to pay attention to is the flowers. So no worries if the vase ain't perfect. Now, next to the vase, we were going to put a couple of little fruits. So let's get those in there. To make a fruit, I'm going to start with a U shape, like that. Kind of like a circle, but not all the way around. I'm going to take one side of this and kind of curve it down. And I'll zoom in so you guys can see that closer. I started at the top and I kind of curved it down like a slide. And this side, I'm going to have it loop right around to the top. Makes a little dip, kind of where the stem would go. You can add a stem if you like. I might put one more apple or two more apples on the other side. How about? Start with that big U shape. Dip it down on one side, curve it up around the other. If it's a little lopsided, that's okay, remember? I might make my next one behind it, so I'm going to stop, hop over, keep going. There, now I got a lot of nice fruit. Now for the fun part. Ooh, let's get the table in there though before I forget. Start on one side, go towards the vase. If you hit an apple or you hit the vase, make sure you stop, hop over it, and keep going. Just like that. All right, so now for our beautiful tulip flowers. Quick reminder of what those are going to look like. We're going to start with just the flowers. We'll add the stems and the leaves in a little bit. So let's start with the flowers. To make a tulip, and you might want to practice this on the back of your paper too, great place to practice. To make a tulip, you start with a U shape for the center petal. We'll top that off with kind of a rounded point, almost like a raindrop shape. And then on each side, we'll add another petal. Start on the top, go around and down. Sort of looks like an ear. Did you know tulips can hear you? They have ears. Just kidding. Let's practice that one or two more times. I like to sometimes make mine kind of curve out a little bit. Each tulip can be a little different. Some tulips haven't bloomed yet, so they're kind of wrapped up like that, just a little bud. So practice a couple ways of doing it, however you like. There's no wrong way to make a tulip. All right, so now up here in this open space, let's spread out a couple tulips. I'd say 4 or 5, maybe even 6 if you can fit them. Make sure we get a lot of nice tulips in here. Some can be a little bit bigger, some can be a little bit smaller, like a little baby tulip. If you know another kind of flower that you really like and you want to do another type of flower, throw it in there. It's your art, it's your choice, right? I think mine's looking pretty good. If you need more time, pause this video and start it when you're ready. So now that we've got a lot of beautiful tulips on there, let's give them some stems. All the stems should come back to the top edge of this vase. They should be pretty straight. What might get tricky is if you have a tall tulip and another one will be in the way of your stem on the way down. So here's what you do. Make the stem, and when you get to the other flower, stop, hop over, keep going, just like that. All right, now we've got our beautiful stem. It's time for leaves. Tulip leaves are long. Let's take a look at our example one more time. They're long, they're kind of flat, they're very big too. Sometimes they flop over, which is kind of fun. They might curve up like they're growing up towards the sunlight. It's up to you. Let's do a variety. Variety is what makes art more interesting to look at. So whenever you add a leaf, it should be pointy at one end and come back to a point. And let's give it a line. It doesn't have to be right down the middle either. It can be a little off to one side. But it should always have a point at one end and point on the other end. This leaf is going behind that flower, so I've got to stop, hop over. I like to add a lot of leaves. You can stop whenever you think you have enough leaves. I like to fill it up, but you don't have to. Sometimes it's nice to have a little bit of empty space in your picture. One last thing I do on my tulips, I like to add some kind of wrinkle lines on the front petal. Just 2 little swish lines so those petals have a little more texture. All right. Go ahead and pause the video if you need more time. But otherwise, we'll keep moving on. So let's put away our black crayon. That was the only crayon we're going to need. The lucky black crayon was the only crayon. Ha ha ha, you other crayons, we didn't use you. Just kidding. Don't be mean to your crayons. Be nice to your crayons. They work hard for you. All right, so now it's time to paint. You should have a paintbrush in your kit. I'm going to use my own paintbrush already in my cup. If you've been using a tissue to tuck in your paints when you're done, your tissue may stick to the paints. That's okay. You can still peel it off. Even if there's a little bit of paper on there, once you paint with it, that paper will come right off. Alrighty. So let's start with the tulips. We're going to do some fun color blending today using red and orange. Whenever you want to blend 2 paint colors, never blend them over here inside the actual paint. Always blend them on your paper. Here's how we do proper paint blending. Rinse, scrape, and start with your first color. Let's start with red. I'm swirling that in a nice circle in the middle so I don't hurt the paintbrush. And on each flower, I'm just going to do a couple of red stripes. I'm not filling in the whole flower. I'm just doing some red stripes here and there. Tulips come in a lot of different colors, but we'll do reddish orange tulips today. I love a good bright red color, don't you? All right. Once we've got our red on the tulips, let's rinse, scrape, and swirl in the orange. We'll fill in the rest of the tulip with the orange paint, and you can even paint right over the red to see what happens when they mix. Ooh, that looks like fire. That looks like flame colors. Gorgeous. Really try to stay inside the lines, but fill up the whole tulip. We don't want any white spots. It's a lot of different kinds of tulips, but we don't want white tulips today. Gorgeous. Ooh, that's so pretty. I just love painting, don't you? All right, so now let's get to these stems. Rinse, scrape, swirl in your green. Nice and gentle. Swirl that in circles. The stems are hard. Make sure your sleeve is rolled up. So whenever I'm painting a really skinny line and I want to make it really perfect, I carefully set my wrist down on the paper. Not in a wet spot, but I'm going to set my wrist down on the paper and then my fingers can move and do the painting. That way my hand holds still while I paint my perfect lines. But you know, even when we try our best, sometimes we get outside the lines. That is okay. Art's not about being perfect. No, art's about having a good time. All right, now we got our stems done. Let's do the leaves. We're going to do color blending on the leaves as well. First, we'll start with a green layer. But don't worry, we'll add more colors in a minute. So on every leaf, let's add some green. If your brush gets dry, give it a drink. Dip it in a little bit of water so that that paint is smooth and slippery. We don't want dry, pasty paint. Smooth, slippery, wet paint. Now, once all the leaves are green, remember, if you're not done, you can pause me and then play me when you're ready. But once we're done with the leaves, let's rinse, scrape, and now we're gonna add some yellow on the top half of each leaf. That will look like the light is shining down, hitting those leaves. Let's swirl in our yellow. Top half of this leaf. The yellow won't show up a ton, but just a little bit of a glow is perfect. Yellow is a very light color. It's not very strong. So on one half of each leaf, we'll add our yellow. Now on the other half, we'll add some blue. Rinse, scrape. We don't need very much, so just get a little bit of blue on your brush, and we'll add that to the bottom half of the leaves, or the other half. That blue and green will mix to make a beautiful bluish green color, and it will also kind of look like a shadow on the bottom half of the leaf. When we add light and shadows to a picture, it helps it look more realistic, like real life. I gotta say, blue-green is probably one of my favorite colors. If it seems too blue to you, you can always rinse, scrape, put more green on top. That's the nice thing about paint. You can always add layers. You can change it. It's still wet, so you can make changes if you need to. Oh, gorgeous! You guys! Beautiful. All right, let's rinse, scrape, vase. Now we've already used red and green. Let's pick a new color for the vase. Blue, purple, orange, yellow, something that we don't see up here in the top. That's that variety, doing something a little different. I think I'm gonna pick yellow. Yellow is such a happy color. Bright sun. Now, like we were talking about light and shadows just a second ago, you can even add a little bit of a shadow to one side of your vase. I'm going to add a little bit of an orange shadow because yellow and orange are next to each other, so they go nicely together. And that will make it look like there's a little bit of a shadow. Just on one side. Makes that vase look rounder. Now let's add some designs, or I'm sorry, some paint on our little fruit down here. The fun thing about fruit is that if you look closely at it, it's usually kind of blotchy colors, almost like a very subtle tie-dye in a way. So I'm gonna make a green apple right here, but I want it to be a yellowish green. So I'm gonna start with some yellow on the apple, and then rinse, scrape, add little patches of green. And that'll kind of blend together like a little puddle. I might even turn my paper so it kind of drips around a little bit. And then I've got kind of a nice little tie-dye apple, a couple colors mixed. You could make a red apple and add just a little bit of maybe orange to it or a little bit of yellow to it. Just kind of dab it on, play in those color puddles. For this one, I'm going to do a plum over here. So I'm going to do some red and then some purple with it. That'll be fun. Ooh, I put a little blue in there too so it would mix and make purple because red and blue makes purple. All right, so now we just have the table and the background to finish up. Choose a color for your table that you haven't used yet. We've kind of used them all pretty much, or at least I have. So I'm going to paint that table brown. Maybe it's a wooden table. I've got a wooden kitchen table myself. I made it too out of old pieces of wood. My friend helped me, and we even put a little pieces of brass in some of the parts, so it's kind of golden and shiny in some parts. All right, okay, there we go. All right, finishing that up. Pause me if you need to catch up. And then for the background, oh, I haven't used blue yet. I'll do blue for the background. Perfect. You can choose whatever color you want. What's going to be tricky is getting in these little tiny cracks here in between the flowers and the petals. So use just the very tippy tip of your brush. Sometimes I like to go around the edges first and then fill in the big area quickly. Watch the edge of your brush if you want to try to stay inside the lines. That helps. Watch the edge of your brush. I remember when my painting teacher said that to me once, and I was like, oh, genius. Now remember, your art doesn't have to be perfect. Like, your art's not going to look just like my art. My art's not going to look like your art. Your art's not going to look like your neighbor's artwork or your parents' artwork. Everybody's a little different. Just like the artists that we looked at the beginning of this lesson, they all made flowers, but did you notice how they were all very different? Every artist has their own style. What you might think is a mistake might actually be just kind of your style. Maybe your tulips are just like always a little bit chubbier. That's okay. That's cool. Your style is that you make tulips a little chubbier. Or maybe your style is that, you like a certain color, or your lines are a little bit wiggly or wavy instead of straight. That's not a mistake. That's just your style. The famous artists of the world did not get famous because they could copy someone else perfectly. They got famous because they had their own style. They were different from other people. That's a good thing in art. And honestly, being different is kind of a good thing in the world. It's what makes you special. Remember when I was little, I used to think I wasn't very good at art, but I just loved it. So I just kept trying, kept doing it. Don't let perfection stop you from trying. Because that's the really sad thing, when people don't even want to try because they're too scared of failing. That's a bummer. If you don't stay quite inside the lines, that's okay. We'll just enjoy the painting process. All right. Now, once you're done, send me a picture. I want to see what you made. Show me on Seesaw. You could even give this beautiful picture as a gift, or if you want to keep it to yourself, keep it to yourself. You're the artist. It's your choice, right? Well, I have had so much fun making art with you today. Congratulations on your beautiful brand new baby tulips, and I can't wait until the next time I get to make art with you. Have a great day, and don't forget to send me a picture of what you made.